Hello everyone, Zelrant here, and today for Girls Frontline 2, we're going to take a look at Lynn's kit. Now this is the kit without the numbers. This came out a couple days ago. I just haven't really had the time to take a look at it and go over it yet. But that's what we're going to go ahead and do today. Now we will be getting the actual numbers when she releases on CN on Tuesday, so I'll be going over that once we get the numbers and kind of give an idea of what I think in terms of her capabilities within the Corrosion team or potentially with other teams. But for now, let's just go ahead and get right into her kit. So first thing we'll take a look at is her passive / summon abilities down here at the bottom. So at the end of action, Lynn gains Confectance Index. So after end of her action, she will get Confectance Index naturally from that. So it gives me the idea that there's going to be cost to Confectance Index within some of the skills. We don't see that yet. We don't know cooldown or Confectance Index cost here yet. At the start of turn, all enemy units are inflicted with Honey Trap, so that's her debuff that she puts on all of the enemies. And that when you get later into the kit, you can kind of understand how this is going to work with it, because at the beginning of every turn, every enemy is what it's saying gets it, but it's not like something that you can repeatedly abuse. Because when you look at it down here, when an enemy unit is afflicted with Honey Trap dies, or when an allied unit deals corrosive damage to an enemy unit afflicted with Honey Trap, Lynn gains sugar. And then if Lynn has 5 or more stacks of sugar, before she attacks an enemy unit afflicted with Honey Trap, she'll trigger the effects of Honey Trap, and then after the trigger, Honey Trap will be consumed. So every turn, this is going to get put on them, but you're not going to be able to abuse it too much. Because one thing I was thinking of originally was Peridia, especially at V6, can do 10 support actions. And so she can just stack up 10 stacks of sugar, but it does say if she has 5 or more stacks of sugar, before she attacks an enemy unit afflicted with Honey Trap, triggers the effects of Honey Trap, and then it gets consumed. So Peridia is going to be really, really good at getting those stacks, because it does mention more, 5 or more. So to me, Lynn's going to be like the last one to go with that. And then when you look at Honey Trap, when Honey Trap is triggered, Lynn inflicts powerful debuffs, which it doesn't know yet, on the Holer, cleanses buffs from it, and launches action support, dealing AoE corrosion damage. And this is considered a corrosion debuff, and that cannot be cleansed. Now, the big thing with sugar is corrosion damage dealt increased. So that tells me you do not want to trigger this until... You basically don't want to use Lynn until the end of turn, is kind of what I'm seeing here. Because of that more stacks, it triggers when she attacks. So you first want your Mechty to attack, then you want your Klukai to attack, and then you have all of your Peridia support actions. If she's V6, that's 10, hit the enemy. And then you kind of do her AoE or whatever else corrosion damage you can with her. Then you come in with Lynn, and then attack them, hopefully with a crap ton of stacks of sugar, and does massive damage because of all the stacks. Then it triggers Honey Trap and puts some powerful buffs on it and cleanses buffs. It's going to be kind of tricky there because it cleanses buffs. So I know like some bosses you want to cleanse the buff before you attack them. So we'll kind of have to see how it works. But it seems like it has a lot of potential. Just this alone seems to have a lot of potential with the Mechty Peridia combo. And then you have Klukai as well, especially since she can do a lot of corrosion damage herself. Especially if you have Klukai at V6 with all those dot explosions. If those count independently for getting stacks of sugar, we'll kind of have to see though. But right now I really like the passive overall. But let's just go ahead now and get into the basic attack. Deals physical damage. Nothing crazy with that. Okay. Hopefully we're just never going to use it because we're going to go through the skills. Heavy Saturation, AoE debuff. It deals AoE corrosion damage to all enemy units within a forward fan-shaped area. The damage is increased based on the number of debuffs currently applied to the enemy unit. And Corrosion loves their debuffs. And we have unique ones from her. Hopefully the Honey Trap triggered ones are unique as well. So you can get more of them on them. And then before using the skill, randomly inflicts additional powerful debuff. Debuff/debuffs, question mark, with the attack's affected area. After using the skill, Lynn gains Confectance Index. So this one seems like a really good follow-up to after exploding Honey Trap. And this one might be like, because you're gonna, it's kind of tricky here, because you're gonna use this, trigger that, and then it's gonna pop. It's kind of, all of it, I'm gonna have to kind of see how it all goes together, because she seems like she can do a crap ton of damage. Because her attack is what triggers the passive. And let's look at this second one here. Overload Burst deals AoE corrosion damage to all surrounding enemy units if Lynn has max confectance index before using the skill, which to me, when you usually have those kind of conditions, you don't want to use the skill until they do. So this one actually may be the trigger for getting it into action and this. So you just keep saving it until you have max before using the skill. And the damage multiplier of this skill is increased based on the number of sugar stacks held by Lynn. Oh, and then this one, yeah, this one's going to be massive depending on how many she has. I wonder if with sugar, they'll have, I'm going to guess, they'll probably have a limit to the amount of stacks you can have. And then her V6, probably like Chawa, is going to remove that limit. And then she's going to be stupidly broken with like a V6 Peridia and Klukai, like just doing massive amounts of damage. That'll be kind of my guess, is there'll be a limit. And then you can remove that limit with dupes. But pretty big there. And then you have her ultimate AoE, inflicts Keto Academia to all surrounding enemy units, increasing corrosion damage they receive from Lynn. Upon activation of this skill, all corrosion debuffs held by the enemy units within range are triggered. After using the skill, Lynn can use either basic attack, Loathsome Shot, or the active skill, Heavy Saturation, or the active skill. So after her ultimate, she can go again. So she can go multiple times. It's like built into her kit quite significantly because she has that. I mean, overall, she is looking really, really good. Now, a lot of its AoE doesn't look to have like a single target focus on it, but she does look like she has a lot of attacks, a lot of ways to stack her damage up, and just overall big damage. Is all I can really say on that. We'll have to see the numbers on her overall kit, but I really like what I see. And then let's go ahead and just get in the keys, because here's one thing I noticed in the keys that I really like as well. So keys, Pain Perception. At the start of turn, Lynn gains Quick Barrier. Okay, that's a defensive one. Night Owl's Reflex. After using active skills, Heavy Saturation or Overload Burst gains extra movement. Situational, but I could see that having some use somewhere. Radio Invitation. This is the one that pairs well with Mechty. Selects one allied unit, Doll, on the battlefield, removing the ability for them to move or use active skills for the rest of battle. After the selection, defense is reduced to all enemy units. Lynn gains extra command. It looks like devs made this. Oh, that's just saying they have a text mistake. So she gets extra command. So it's basically a special skill she can use at any point. And you use it, and then she can go immediately after it. But it says the rest of battle. So you pair her with Mechty, and she just basically puts her to sleep for the rest of the battles, what this sounds like. And Mechty has that other skill within her that basically she doesn't want to move anyway, so she can do a lot of stuff when not moving. So that's going to pair really well with her. But I can see this being useful in other units as well. One example would be Peridia, potentially. Just because Peridia's active skills, while nice, aren't the core of her damage. It's her support actions. So I could potentially see in that as well. But I mean, if you're using Peridia, you're using Mechty as well. So I don't really know if this will be useful on anyone else because it shuts down active skills. Very specific to her. But I think it might be like the go-to for Mechty just because of her expansion key. Now, you will require to have Mechty's expansion key if you're using this because that's where she can kind of take advantage of the not moving or using skills. Civilized Judgment. If the active skilled Overload Burst hits only one enemy unit, increases damage dealt. So this is the big part I've seen here. If it hits only one enemy, increases damage dealt. That is going to be like the thing that makes it where maybe she can do single target damage and be good for Gunsmoke Frontline or boss battles. I mean, we already know that was one of the problems with Klukai at V0. She just cannot do the damage to the bosses in that at a good extent. But Overload Burst is this one that does damage based on the number of sugar stacks held, and you want max confectance index because this could be a massive single target attack. We don't know how quickly you're going to be able to stack up confectance index, but this one right here gives you extra turn on the ultimate. And so if it's like an alternating back and forth between these two, meaning you use your ultimate, she's doing all her stuff down here with her passive, then you go after the ultimate, you lead into her first skill, which gives some confectance index. on top of that, and then maybe you can lead back into this one, because it doesn't say the number of stacks it gives you. So maybe you can alternate back and forth to a certain extent. I'm gonna guess you can at least do this every 2 turns, but we'll kind of have to see, and I'm gonna guess it's a massive damaging attack that, with hopefully this one, makes it worthwhile for her in Gunsmoke Frontline, because she is heavily AoE within her kit. But it is nice to see that they have something that makes it do more with less enemies. And then when Lynn has Sugar, cleanses debuffs on self before attacking. Sweet remedy. I can see this one being useful depending on the boss. Withdrawal symptoms. At the start of turn, if Lynn has max Confectance Index, she gains crit up 2. That one's going to be, to me, a must-have. You're going to... Basically, her main kit to me sound like Withdrawal Symptoms, Civilized Judgment, and then... oh yeah, Radio Invitation for Mechty. So that's like the main 3 to me. You have this for Mechty, this so you can do single target damage to the boss, and then this one makes it when you use that attack, it hits crit up 2 on it, so she has a good chance of critting with that skill as well. And then a common key, really nice. When attacking enemy units afflicted with debuffs, phase damage is increased. So it says phase damage. I'm going to guess it's probably going to say maybe corrosion, or it just says any damage. And that would be useful on like most units. We'll just kind of have to see the numbers on there. But overall, a great common key there. Then you have her weapon, a high-performance shotgun issued to Lynn based on Achkin AA-12. Okay, that's just kind of going over what the gun actually is. So, anxiety compensation. Before attacking, damage dealt is increased based on the number of debuffs held by the enemy unit. So, more debuffs, more damage. If the attack deals corrosion damage, it is further increased. And then trait AoE damage dealt is increased. If it is an AoE corrosion damage, the AoE damage dealt is further increased. When I think of shotgun users, we have Chawa. He doesn't do AoE, if I don't remember correctly. And then Sabrina maybe could utilize that, but with it being corrosion specific, not at all. So this is very tied to her. Now I really like the Battle Pass shotgun because of the stability that it adds, or the stability downgrade. So this may not be a good, it's going to be her best in slot for sure. But I think the Battle Pass may be better just for Gunsmokes than that, because you can reduce the stability quicker. We'll just kind of have to see when we get the numbers there. But that's it. That's pretty much her kit. Overall, I really do like what I'm seeing here. She does not sound like she's going to be overly broken, but I mean, I fully expected that with the Corrosion team, because Klukai is so crazy. But I do feel like she doesn't also need Klukai. So those who maybe don't want to invest in Klukai because V0 is not really good at bossing, I feel like she can pair very well into it. Kind of looking at the kit, we'll have to see the numbers. But she has the ability to do big damage to a boss built into a common key, at least based on what I can tell. So right off the bat, V0, you have access to this key, you have access to all these skills. Really what can weaken her is kind of the rotation, if the rotation sucks unless you get dupes. You can kind of think like Jianyu, I cannot say her name, Jianyu, who requires or wants like 3 dupes at least to really have a good cycle with her skills. So ultimately it comes down to that with cooldowns and Confectance Index costs and all that. But overall, she does look like, and she doesn't need, looking at it, she doesn't need Klukai. She really wants Mechty and Peridia, because Mechty and Peridia paired together can get her those stacks of sugar that she wants. Klukai can just add even more. Now, I fully expect there to be a cap, and then if you max duper or something, she's going to probably have an even crazier amount of damage, thinking Chawa levels of damage. But we'll just kind of have to see. I mean, overall, I just got to see the numbers at this point, but I think it's going to fit perfectly. The only thing now with Corrosion with her is we're not going to have a mono Corrosion yet, because we'll have 1 slot basically open still. We'll have 4 of Klukai, Peridia, Mechty, and her. So, and then you also have the question of, will she make mono Corrosion with 1 extra support better than if you say exclude her and bring a Tololo Springfield, or exclude her and Mechty and bring Nikita Tololo Springfield? Is this going to be meta level damage? I'm going to guess not, but it's going to open up you to have your mono hydro. Because now you can have Florence, Joey, Tololo, Springfield, Nikita. You have your 5 hydro team. And now you can have 4 corrosion and then throw in, I don't know, like Yuhi or someone. I can't think of who I'd probably bring as my the one extra one at this point, not off the top of my head. But just bringing one extra person that can support corrosion really well. And that'll pretty much, then you have basically 2 teams set in stone, set good. And then you have like your burn team as your 3rd team for Gunsmoke Frontline. But yeah, overall, looks good. And that's pretty much it. If you like my content, if you could like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.